Hey everybody, and welcome back. Well, we're in another one of those little time warps which may confuse you over a couple of videos because, as I've mentioned before, some things involve a lot of work, very little video, and some things involve about as much video as there is work. Well, we came to one of those times, excuse me, itchy eye, when I was just able to work on, and when I checked, I already had 50 odd minutes of video. So this is actually just the Tuesday after you have watched episode 19, and I've already got episode 20 done. So I'm sort of, as you'll see in episode 20 when you get to it, or as you did see in episode 20, I was waiting for some screws because these case screws were BSW, these were BSF, and I didn't have any. So I've had to alter or wait for a few things. I had a couple of comments telling me how I could have got the cable in this, but to be quite honest, they're on about pressing the washer down, feeding the cable through. I think it was just as easy actually to take it apart and do it on device. So what's going to go on? Well, I think what we're going to do today, because I'm still waiting for things which you're going to I'm going to tell you I'm sending for them in another week's time. It's getting confusing, isn't it? So I'm going to start on the tank. I was going to tell you something else as well, oh yeah, I know where it is. So we're going to start on the tank today, lots of little bits of cardboard and things like that, and see what's what. And then we'll go from there. The ongoing saga of those gearbox pinions, right? Now, I had a friend of mine around the other day who's a teacher. What do we call a shop teacher here? Actually, very good teacher named Steve Lindridge. He's received awards for his teaching, and he gets the most incredible gifts from people like Harbour Freight, as I mentioned, and he's had local businesses sort of donate CNC machines and stuff to the high school he works at. So anyway, he was round, we were talking, and we got talking about those two pinions. And to be honest, neither of us know a great lot about gears, involute and all this sort of stuff. But as he was pointing out, it's not only a question of how many teeth you've got on a given circumference, but also sort of the angles and all the rest of it. So, to cut a long story short, I have done the gearbox on my Enfield because we had really nice weather and it was annoying me that I couldn't get out to ride. So because I've got ahead of myself in videos, I took this down, put the other one up. I didn't bother videoing it because I thought I've just shown you an Enfield gearbox being put together. But anyway, I changed the main shaft and the lay shaft, put those little gears on, put it all together, and Sunday, it's just gone, a couple of days ago, it was nice, it was sunny, it was about 40 degrees. So I took the Enfield out and rode 20 sections, and they're as quiet as a mouse, they work perfectly. You see, they're inside a gearbox, so I can't really say it. They seem to work perfectly, and actually I worked it out, come on memory, first gear comes out at 45 to 1. And as you know, I aim for 40 to 1, so it's a real crawling gear, particularly with this engine. Thank you. Particularly with this engine, it's just, as I rode the sections that I know, some up and arounds and things like that, it just was wonderful. So second gear came to 29 to 1, something like that. And second gear was nice for a lot of the sections. Even third gear, again, because of the way this engine runs, you could waffle around in third gear and open it up and it would do a climb. So, for anybody who's building a bullet for a trials bike, if you want to get a bit of paper out, pause this and get a bit of paper out, alright? I'm waiting for you. You got it? Okay. With those two gears on the internals in the bullet gearbox, 17 tooth crankshaft sprocket, 14 tooth gearbox sprocket and a 60 tooth rear wheel sprocket, you will be, I think, really happy with the ratios, particularly for use in sort of the modern, what they call classic trials, where the sections are a lot sort of tighter and not just big blasting through things. So they have worked out really well. I'm pleased with the ratios now I've written it. So that's that. Let's get on and start cutting some cardboard and see what we can do for this tank, and then as bits arrive we'll be doing other little jobs. Right, well, I managed to get you raised up there so you can sort of see this in length. I hope we don't get too much shine off this. Anyway, the little bit of green you can see here is a piece of foam and stuff to simulate where the top of the saddle is going to be. So as I say, I want the tank to go from here to right up here. Now I can't get it right up there because of the forks coming around, but we can do our best. So I've cut, I can't remember whether I've shown you this piece or not. So I cut this piece already. This is basically the shape that I want the tank to be. Now, right. So as you can see, I think you can see anyway, it's a little bit longer than it needs to be there, so I can curve that in a bit more. And it's slightly out a little bit because it's actually sitting on that decompressor cable, but that will go up out of the way. So I don't know as I want it any wider than that. It's probably going to be slightly shorter. So I think what I'll do, because here it's sitting on the frame, is I'll cut that out a bit more so we can drop this down. Now we're going to do something different this time, and I've just ordered the stuff. You remember with the other tank we basically made a form and we made a book, and you remember the difference. A form is something you work on. Now, so for instance, when we did the other one, we made a piece out of thick wood that was the base and the tunnel, and I was not only able to sort of see the shape, but I could actually hammer over the edge and things like that. That's a form. A book was the piece on the top that I made with all the ribs, remember? And that is just the shape of the tank, and as you work your pieces you can offer it up and make sure it touches, you know, it touched all the ribs for instance when I did it that way, and then you know it's right, and you can use it to hold it together when you're welding it, but you don't work on it, there's no hammering on it. So apparently from watching the various proper people, what's very popular is instead of wooden books they're wire. Well, it's about 1/8 inch. I bought 1/8 inch. And basically it's like the armature you'd make if you were doing a figurine, if you were making a big figure. So it's going to have a piece that will be the top shape, and then it will have various ribs, and we can, as we shape the tank, we can offer it up to make sure it's touching. So because this isn't an overly difficult shape, and I haven't made that stupid error at the front where I sort of designed two different curves which virtually wouldn't come together at the front. We won't make that mistake again. I was half thinking of trying to make this in one. I think that's a little ambitious for me at the moment, but I'm pretty sure I can make it in 2 halves. Right? I can get this curve and that curve, and then we'll weld it down the top. So let me make this little bit of a change here so we can get it to sit down completely. It's going to be like that. Right, let me do that. Right, well, so that's going to come down to there. Okay, so I'll put a little something heavy on there to hold that. I'm going to move you around now because we need to show you the next thing we have to think about. Right, so what we have here is, unlike the Triumph, we don't have a big, you know, the Triumph, because it had a header over here and a head here, you could literally have laid a ruler across and it would have been level. But here we don't. This side, I have rocker boxes. This side, I only have a little bit. So, where are we? Right, left. So on this side, we can actually come down. Right, we're going to make a little cutout there. I'm going to do it in a minute, and that will allow us, whoops, it's come out, to drop this down to here. Right. Now on the other side we can't, so it's going to be slightly different. If you were to look at the bottom of the Enfield tank, you'd see that it's actually got cutaways to drop down a little bit. And when you look at the trials bikes that have got, say, AGS engines in particular, which have a big rocker cover, if you turn the tank over, you see there's a great big cutout. The tank sort of goes round on each side, but I don't want it that wide, so we are going to drop down and catch some volume on this side. And on the right hand side, basically what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little bit of a skirt so that it'll be level both sides, but this side will actually be hollow if you like, and this side is just going to be cosmetic. Then, say we're going to miss this here, we can come down here. The other side we can't come down because we've got the carburetor just here. So we're going to do some fiddling. So this time as well, we're going to make the tunnel and the base in pieces. We're going to make this side, we're going to make this side, then we're going to make the tunnel and weld it in. Right, now then, we're going to stay with this shape. Right, and what we're going to do is here, instead of bending this template, we're going to cut the template, decide how much it's going to drop, and then we'll cut a piece of cardboard exactly the width here where it goes down and do it at right angles. That way this shape will remain the same because we're not bending it out, we're just dropping this down, so it'll, if you look at it from above, it'll have exactly the same shape. Alright, so let me cut this bit, Mark, cut this bit out, and then we'll come back yet again. Right, so I've made a couple of changes here. I cut a little bit more off here because of that. I've shortened that a little bit. I've actually cut too much out of there because what I did was I took those button cap things off and I countersunk those to give myself, you know, another 1/8 of an inch. But that's about right there. And I've made these square cuts. I didn't see any reason to complicate things and make it harder to do by making them round. So now what we want to do, see, that is like that. We need a ruler. There we go, 6-inch one is fine. We set ourselves so that is basically level there. And actually, look at that, it's almost level with the tank, with that now. I think we'll drop it down an inch. Don't think that'll get in the way of anything. Hang on, let me screw a spark plug in there to make sure. Right, I haven't screwed that all the way in because don't forget we're going to have a spark plug cap as well on that. And where to put that? Yeah, I think we can come down an inch. Yeah. So let me cut up one. I'm going to cut this just here and then put a 1 inch drop in it, and then we'll see what it looks like over there and also how it clears these rocker boxes. So I've cut that, put my little inch in, which will be like that. So that's just going to be like that. And I better find a plug cap for that. Right, I put the plug cap on that actually comes with the ignition. That will be all right. Okay. So I think actually I can go and cut a piece of alloy that shape. Alright people, it's another day and I've had my little mind in overdrive. Right, first of all, this. I was fiddling around with these and I thought, you know, the easiest way to do this would be to make the tunnel first and then make these pieces, because I knew I was going to make this in a couple of bits with folds. So I set 2 and I cut that out. It actually comes up a little bit at the end here. So that's how the tunnel would be. Now I've got a feeling I've turned this here, I've got a feeling it's going to be curved there, maybe go out a little bit longer. You remember we've got to not make the mistake of having a curve on this and a curve on the skin that aren't compatible. So what I'll do here is I'll just make that big, and then when I've made the skin, wherever it touches we'll mark it and cut it. Another noisy pickup. So that's going to go right back here, because I've been giving a lot of thought to how I'm going to seal this end up, because one of the things is welding when it's all made and you're inside is really difficult, whereas just welding around the edge is nice and easy. So I think I've thought of a way that I can make this whole thing come right. Okay, now then, the other thing is, and I might be telling you something that I've already told you, because I say we're in this time warp at the moment. You remember all the difficulties with, well, not difficulties, but the problem with the nut that goes on the end of the crankshaft on the other side. That when I needed one to pull the cases onto the crank, I couldn't find one, you know, and I'd ordered 2 of the ones for this time side. So anyway, I had to order a couple of things yet again that I'd forgotten. So I looked, and I must have told you that the page on the old type of parts books isn't a nice exploded diagram. It's almost, in fact, funnily enough, the Henderson one was a photograph that just laid all the pieces out so that they would fit onto, you know, a photograph. So you don't get this good idea of where things go. So I looked and looked at the crankshaft diagram and everything, and eventually I came up with a nut, which was a crankshaft nut. So I looked at the photograph and thought, that's not it, because it's not a shouldered nut. But I ordered one, and when it came, it's far too big. So I suddenly had a blinding flash of inspiration the other night. I thought, wait a minute, what if it's not classed as the crankshaft nut, even though it screws on the crankshaft? What if it's classed as something to do with the alternator, because it holds the rotor on? And sure enough, I go to the parts book, look on the electricals page, and there is a shouldered rotor nut. And funnily enough, the guys who I've been talking to at Hitchcock's, shows you how good they are actually. I got an email from him the very next morning. He said, wait a minute, I kept looking, and what you want is the rotor nut. So I've got a rotor nut coming. Alright, so what we're going to do here, you see, is we're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side, because it's going to be a different shape. Actually, maybe not that different as far as the tunnel goes. I'll try this over the other side. Then what we'll do is we'll cut another piece of cardboard which is the right size. It'll be a strip, the right width to form that curve. So it's going to be part of that. Then when it's laid out flat, I'll cut a piece of alloy, I'll bend it over, and that should go like that. Then I can start making the other pieces to go with it. So let me try this on the other side. Right, so let me lift this up to the way it'll be. Let's think it actually goes to about there. It goes further in, of course, but I'm just resting on that so I know what's what. So that's going to go like that. Now don't forget, this is the tunnel. This is just the tunnel. So if you're saying, whoa, what's the actual floor of the tank is going to be down here. It's going to be out this side. See, because there's going to be a little box that comes out to go around that, and then the tank comes out here. So this will all be capacity. Right? We don't need that cut out there, of course, for the carburettor. We're going to need a tap here. And what we've got to be careful of course, the tap has a filter that sticks up, and also, of course, the tap's got to be above the level of that. Well, this is, it'll work. So good. So all I've got to do now is decide how much extra I need. In truth, I don't need to make it curved. There's plenty of petrol tanks out there where, for ease of manufacture, this is flat. But we'll curve it, I think. I prefer that. So basically, if I make two like that, but I don't make any cutouts here until later, I can lay this out on a piece of alloy. Right, so there's a piece of alloy marked out. There we go. So that's the time inside with the cutout for the carburettor, and then that's it. That side we didn't need as much cutout. So what I have to do now is, that's the centre line. I've scored that because I'm going to anneal this and all the markings will burn off. So when this is folded over, of course, this needs to curve down. So I've got to put a couple of cuts up here so that as this folds down, I can then bend that down over the top of it and weld it on. So I've got to cut from about where it stops being straight, because that's where it starts to curve, and it actually needs to be about 2 inches wide, which is how big we're going to bend this. Oops. I bent a little bit of wire and stuff like that, and as you saw when I had this on, that actually is about the centre line of the tube. So it's from there to over here, which is going to be 2 inches. See? So I'm scratching my head about exactly how to cut this, so let me do that, but we'll anneal it and just fold this. Really would have been easier actually to make it with a square piece, but I've got some, I'm pretty sure I've got some 2-inch tube. I can bend this over. Right, so I've annealed it, got it on a piece of 2-inch diameter solid bar, which is what we want it to be, clamp just to help me. So I've got the centre line down there. Even annealed this. Ugh. I think I have to do a little bit of bumping on this to get it round. Is that going to be strong enough? Yeah. Where's... hang on, let me get a soft hammer. I don't remember it being this difficult when we did the other tank. Phew. Actually, I need to be stood on something to press down on this. Let me work on it some more. Right, so cover your ears, because this is the only way I've found that I can do this. Once we've got it round so far, then that's other methods, but I had a short piece of 2-inch, that in down the centre. Right, so we're coming along. Let me continue. Right, well, I don't remember this thickness of alloy being this hard on the other one, but I've got it there. I've got to do this end a bit now. So what we're going to do, I've got the vise opened a little bit. Yeah, I've got to bend that round to match that, but I've got to put a little bit of a curve in it yet. Right through my towel. Right, I'm going to have to get a couple of dollies out to make this, but let's go and have a first look at it on the bike. Alright, actually from the look of this, I've slightly wandered off the centre line. I'll put a little bit of plate over there for this to rest on. Okay. That's not far up. Right, let me go and bump this round. Actually, it's doing a bit longer, couldn't it? I can always make something up at the end. But that's getting very close. Let me go and bump it a bit more. Hang on, let me look at the other side. Yep, that's about good there. So let me go and bump and trim this a bit more. Yeah, that's coming around now. Should have made this bigger, shouldn't I? I might have to weld a piece in there. I'll have to see how the... No, maybe not. Right, I'm going to clean this. I'll weld about a half of that, and then I can form this bit a little bit more and then square the end off. Right, that's about it. I've got a twist in it, which I really had to think how to grip it so that I could twist it back, but now I'm about on the centre line. Certainly it's not touching anything. Very good. And as usual, it's taken forever to do that. Might have to spring this out a little bit here. But other than that, we're sitting on a bit of rubber actually at the back here, so that's good. And that, hang on, oops, there's a petrol tap. Got to find out where we're going to put the petrol tap. But, what was I looking for? Here we go. It's roughly where the seat's going to be. So I'll come right down to the seat and almost right up to the top. Yes. Okay, as I say, that's it for today. Actually, it's Thursday. Might get a bit in on Saturday, we'll see. Right, so I've done a little bit more trimming on both sides actually to get this where I'm happy with it. And out of a, see, that's the wrong way around, yeah. Out of an alloy welding rod, I've made that to be like that. Actually, could do with being a bit more that, a little bit less than that. Yeah, that's it. So now let's go and transfer that. This is 1 5/8. Right, so the next thing I've done is I've transferred that to there. Right, because it's a little bit difficult. I've started bending this. It's a little bit difficult to hold that to there. But this, you see, I can just keep putting down to that as I bend it. Now that's a bit of cardboard. I'm trying to keep the glare off this. So this has been annealed. So I was actually trying to bend it on the job, if you like, and that didn't work. So that's when I came up with the idea of using the rod. So that must be straightened a bit. That. And then there. No, it's nothing like, is it? This doesn't have to be exactly exact. Because what we're going to do in a moment that didn't bend very well. Right, so actually this is a bit long, this end. Let's go and try it on the bike. Alright. So that is going to go in there like that. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is lay this on a piece of alloy, cut this piece out, weld it in there, and then we can put it up to here. We'll weld it along there, down each sides. Right? Then we'll go and look at the other side and do just the same thing. Alright, so there it is with the top tacked together. So you see that will go on there like that, and then when we put the bottom in, the bottom gets welded to this. Okay, so let me go and finish welding this up. Right, so there it is tacked on there. So you can see, I'm trying to hold something to keep the glare off. You can see it goes around the rocker boxes, so there's a nice gap all the way around there. So let me weld that on, and then maybe today I'll just see how it looks, see if we can't put the bottom in. Now then, that's all welded in, outside and inside. Still a bit warm. And I've cut this piece basically to match. So now that is going to go on there like that, you see. I just marked this, come on. Must have been when I put this bend in here. So that's going to, you see that piece is going to go around that. So I've got to remark that a little bit. And I cut this piece out. I've got a little piece to put in at the back. And this is going to have a 1/4 inch lip bent over. So that when we make the skin, we're not welding sort of like that. We're not welding the bottom to the top. It's going to be like that to give it a better weld. So let me sort out this bit of cardboard so I can cut a piece of alloy Yeah, we'll get this bit done today, and then that'll be it for this week. Right, well, the day's not ended well. I made a complete pizza here of this thing for the bottom. Cut it wrong, drilled the hole in the wrong place. So I managed to move the hole over and made it larger for the bobbin to go in. But instead of making it so the bobbin would have a foot on the bottom, I made the hole the size of it. Anyway, it's all welded on. See, that goes on there like that, and that goes on there. Still think I'm going to have to take a little bit off that. And I mean, I drew around these things. I have no idea. Maybe because I was rushing to get... And I made a mess at the end of this as well. Really stupid. Really, really stupid. I'll have to fill in there somehow. Little piece to put in the back. But there we are. That's how that should be. So this needs welding all the way around. As I say, a little piece putting in there. Okay. But, well, actually, as I say, I'm ahead of myself. I'll do a little bit tomorrow on this, although I wasn't planning to. That so annoyed me. Alright, as I say, oh, and the other thing, of course, I completely forgot to do was the extra 1/4 inch to bend down. So now I'm going to have to put a little piece all the way around, because I do not want to weld the skin to there as a butt weld, as I say, as a weld like that. Fortunately, this being thicker, I can, you know, sort out problems. If it was all made out the 16th, it would take a better welder than me to do it. So, although some of it doesn't come out too badly. All right, but that's enough for today because I'm miffed. Alright, well, I came out to do a bit more because I wanted to get this finished for this week, and I wish I'd never bothered. I've got this tacked on, everything's right. I made a thing to screw the tap into, and I've welded the bloody thing on upside down. That flat piece should be on the bottom, instead of which, look, I've got the inside piece. I just don't believe I did that. So if I was miffed at the end of the last bit of video, I'm even more miffed now. So off you go, people. Stay safe and enjoy yourselves.